Alright, so today I'm going to talk some about making hoses, if I can. Whenever I use tubes of leak seal, I like to cut the ends off and keep them, because you can make all kinds of stuff with these. I made a lot of different adapters and fittings. And also hoses. Anyways, for the refrigerant hoses, like the little one I showed in my Smart Probes video, I use a kit like this. This is actually for Oxy-Acetylene hoses, so I can't recommend that you do it on refrigerant. But the hoses I've made, I test them up to 800 psi and have never had a leak. But basically, these, let's see, 769 collars that get crimped on the barbs that are on these, I've found that they hold extremely well. Today I'm making a hose like this, and this is like a tire valve stem, and this is a quarter flare. And the reason I'm making, gracious animal. Alright, the reason I'm making this just has to do with the way I take tires on and off. I won't go into that, but what we're going to do, I'm going to show you first the best way. And I've found that these gaskets in here can take some heat. You just can't overheat them, but if you're really worried about it, you can remove them. But anyways, you get it like that, put it in a vise. Yes, it is good. And just give them a little heat. Get that collar nice and hot. And they just come right off there. And so now you've got a fitting to use on a hose or whatever. I've also cut these and turned it around so you have like a 45. I've done a lot of different things with these type of fittings. So once you get there and then you press it on your hose, I could use a crimp like one of these, but to be honest, this hose is a lot skinnier than a refrigerant hose. At least it looks that way. Could be wrong about that, but this isn't going to be super high pressure. Get up to maybe 100, 150, something like that. That's not too bad. What I'm actually going to do is show you how to do a wire clamp. Got a piece of wire like that. Careful, boy. Let me see that. You got to be downsized. All right, and this is the tool that I'm using. I will see if I can find this and put a link in the description, but it's made for doing like straps. But I used a chisel to widen that up and did a few other things to it. By the way, this is the formula if you're gonna clamp something very big. This is the formula for the length of wire you need, the diameter of your object times 6.3 plus 10 inches. So it's just a formula I came up with for doing really odd stuff to make sure, because you can really underestimate the wire length. I mean, for bigger stuff, you need lots of wire. So you're gonna go like that, and then thread this through like that. Tighten them up. Then I normally come back around here and straighten this out. All right. Then you're going to feed that wire into there. Put it in the little spindle or whatever. Then I just wind it up. And the advantage of these, of doing it this way rather than like a worm clamp, is it's extremely low profile. I've found these very, very reliable. And they're cheap. There's just a lot of reasons why I like this type of clamp. So once I'm there, I fold this over as best as possible. And you reach in here and cut that. And now you're going to cut it right about there. And then I take each one of these ends and crush them down into the hose so they're facing down like that. And that'll give you a nice clamp with no burrs or sharp edges. So it's down just a little further. And it's a very, very, very strong clamp. So that's how you make random hoses and stuff. Hope that was at least interesting, maybe only entertaining. Maybe neither. Okay, so recently I did a video on making hoses, and it just so happens that I'm gonna make one, so figured I would film this and throw it into that video. This is a 50-foot hose that I actually want in 225s, because I've been doing some bigger jobs recently and just I really need a longer hose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the ends off of this little short hose and use those. Alright, I'm going to show you now how to get the ends off of these hoses. This is just a little short hose and I'm going to steal the ends off it. Now, with tire stems and stuff like that, I'll burn them off with the blowtorch. Just set them somewhere and let the blowtorch point directly at them and just melt this out. But with these, I've found them to be very resistant to melting and fire and whatnot, and it will happen if you leave it long enough, but it stinks and it's just kind of nasty. So what we're gonna do is, I've got a coupler and a flare nut, and that'll just give me a way to clamp this in the vise. And I'm gonna have to clamp this one tight because it's the angled end. Because what I've got to do is, I want to take like a chisel that I don't care about, and I'm just gonna use it to cut this collar. Repositioned a little bit better. These collars are a real pain in the butt. I've found a chisel the best way to cut them off there. And then what I want to do is start cutting it this way. Not like this, because you can cut into the barbs. That's how it's commonly done. You want to cut like this. So you're just shaving off that layer. And that way, if you do hit the barbs, it's nowhere near as bad for them. There we go. So that's going to be one end of the 25-foot hose. And I'll show you how to do the crimps later on when I get back and get my crimp kit. Okay, this is the kit that I showed earlier, and like I said, it's for repairing and making oxy-acetylene hoses. You can see some of the fittings in here, like these for example, and these nuts here. So that's what it's really for, and where you would find this would be at like a welding supply house or something like that. What we're interested in is these ferrules, these 769 ferrules. And sometimes you can find these on eBay as well. But you can see that they fit absolutely perfectly on Yellow Jacket hoses. Probably almost all hoses. They all look like they're about the same diameter. It's a very good fit. In fact, it's such a snug fit that I'm going to use some silicone grease on this barb to shove it in there. And I know that that's, some people may be worried about that. You know, is it going to cause it to slip out of the end? If you're worried about it, don't do it. But I have not found that to be the case at all on any hose that I've ever made. So I'm going to do that just so we can get this in here. And sometimes you even have to pinch this with a vise and put it in there and actually hammer it in. So sometimes they fit that tight. Okay, now since the hose naturally curves this way, I want to put this in like this, not like that. So let me see if I can force that in there. Yeah, that's a very, very tight fit. All right, now I'm gonna sort of get it lined up where I want it. Probably just like that. Then I'm gonna take this crimper and I'm gonna crimp it once in this direction. Crimp it once like that. Now I'm gonna rotate 90 degrees and crimp it again. And like I said, I can't really recommend that you do this, but I have tested these hoses at extremely high pressures and have found them very, very reliable. So that's how you make a custom HVAC hose. So I'm going to do the other one now, and then I'll have two 25-foot hoses. Okay, I've got this one done now, and on these you do want to leave a little bit of space there just so that this spins freely. But there we go. Here's a pressure test, and watch this hose expand under 800 psi. I don't know if you can see it back there, just kind of, but yep, crimps are doing great. Today I'm making an adapter. I've got a wild animal in here. It has to do with the way I take tires off. Okay. Grease. Wait.